Well, so let's get into it. The big news is that you and Glass House to deconsolidate the dual use business of Glass House and apply for the New York Stock Exchange uplisting that Trulieve just recently went through. So why don't you explain that to us in plain English? What exactly are you splitting off? Isn't everything that you guys do adult use?
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll take one step back and just give the 30 seconds on, I'll call it the historical glass house at this point, and then I can talk about what we changed on the go forward basis. So historically, glass house was started about 10 years ago. We're 100% California, don't have operations anywhere else. We've always been kind of building for the idea that cannabis was going to be normalized and destigmatized, which means you do in cannabis, which you do in every other CPG product. And one of the things that makes the United States of America the United States and makes it, I think, the greatest country on the earth is because what we do is we take the best that anybody has and we share it with everybody. So if the best oranges are in Florida, they grow them in Florida, we eat them in California. If the best strawberries are in California, we grow them in California, you eat them in New Jersey, wine from Napa Valley, and cannabis from California. So we have been historically vertically integrated in California. All of our farms, we have 3 farms here, all California, Southern California based. We operated 10 retail stores as well as an MSA on an 11th. We have 3 brands, Glasshouse Farms, Allswell. Those are the most consumed cannabis brands in the state of California. We also have Plus Gummies, which is typically top 5, top 10 edible brand in California. We've got manufacturing and we've got distro. So historically vertically integrated, meaning we do everything from the seed all the way to selling it to the consumer into their ashtray. What we did recently is what they call deconsolidation, which means that we broke off our retail operations from the rest of it into its own separate company. We remain a majority owner of that, but do not actually manage or control it. And it's no longer in our financials. And the reason for that is in California, the only place that there's truly distinction between adult use and medicinal is at retail. So all of our farms are medicinally licensed. All of our processing, all of our manufacturing, and all of our distro is medicinally licensed cannabis. The only place where you see adult use is at retail. Retail is no longer part of Glasshouse, meaning that Glasshouse, the public company, is 100% medicinal. And per the final order that was signed by the federal government in April, medicinal cannabis, state licensed medicinal cannabis is now covered under Schedule 3, which means it's no longer federally illegal, which means if you're a company that is only federally legal cannabis, then there's no reason that you can't be on the US stock exchange, NYSE, or NASDAQ. And so after doing that, now that we are a fully federally legal medicinal cannabis company, we asked the NYSE, we could be listed on their exchange instead of an exchange up in Canada, which is where all the other US cannabis companies are. And the indications are positive. So we're waiting for the final, but we hope to see that happen pretty soon here.
Wow. There's so many questions that you just, brought to mind. I don't even know where to start, but like, I think this whole presumption, or not, I shouldn't, that word is loaded, but the medical only cannabis company in California, and a little bit of this narrative it kind of, it gets to a lot of the confusion in the space. I see a lot of like talking heads, a lot of lawyers, even debating about what is California going to do? How is California going to help? We're at Vertosa, an operator mid-supply chain. We actually did adapt our license to be medical only and have also submitted for a DEA license. And so, it makes me very happy to hear about your confidence. And I'm curious as to what are you potentially hearing that others in California need to hear, or what can help build their confidence?
So, and I should have mentioned in there that we also did all the DEA stuff. So we have submitted all of our, it's called the bulk drug manufacturer's license. They actually, DEA also created a portal specifically for dispensaries. So we should get submitted those prior to the deconsolidation as well. But the most interesting or exciting part that's most aligned with our strategy is the bulk drug manufacturer form. It's called the Form 225. So based on being state medicinally licensed for our forms of manufacturing, we submitted under the new drug codes that they created. And I think getting to your question, I think that's important in two ways. One is the bulk drug manufacturer form 225 is not, that is what Tylenol, codeine, testosterone. I think it even covers things like cocaine and morphine. It's been around for a long time. This is how the DEA operates. And I think one of the things that I've heard, and I get it, right? In cannabis, we have PTSD. In my head, it's always Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football when Charlie Brown thinks he's going to pick the ball, and Lucy pulls it away and he falls on his ass. That's happened to us for the last decade in cannabis, right? So most people are waiting for that football moment. The difference here, and I think it's important, right? There's a lot of what might happens, and then there's what has actually happened. And in this case, I'd say for the first time, what has actually happened is that the federal government, the attorney general, has signed an order that rescheduled. It's a done deal. It's happened past tense. It has rescheduled medicinal cannabis to Schedule 3. It is now federally legal, right? So that is put it in the history books thing, not it might happen, not they're reviewing it, not there's a hearing, done, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So based on that, the next question is, does it mean it, right? And there's a lot of ways where that could happen and not mean anything, right? And I got to give this administration a lot of credit because they've done a bunch of things and they're very smart and they show a very good understanding. And I think they show intention. They could reschedule things to Schedule 3 and then say, great, you need to get an FDA approval. That would effectively mean it means nothing, right? At least today.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that is an FDA approval is going to take you 5 years if you're lucky, and it's going to cost you $50 million. So cannabis could be rescheduled, require an FDA approval, and nothing would actually change. They didn't do that though. They put in a very important set of words which said FDA approved or state medicinally licensed, right? And that means all of us who have state licenses that are medicinal are in, right? Like we don't need an FDA approved. Sidestep $50 million in another half a decade. So the next question is anyone going to do it, right? So that could happen. And then the DEA or DOJ, I'll call it kill it with bureaucracy. And it's actually one of the things that was most worrying to me because you can fight against a no, you can't fight against, it's harder to fight against a non-answer, right? So then the question is anyone going to do it? The answer to that appears to be yes. And the reason I say that is you take this existing Schedule 3 infrastructure that exists, and the DEA has proactively added new drug codes to that form, right? So you have existing infrastructure. You don't need to build this. The DEA has made proactive changes, though, to submit it. And I know that because the day after this was announced, I was on the phone with California, making sure all of our licenses were medicinal. And the next day I was trying to submit this 225 form and finding that I couldn't quite figure out how to fill it out because they hadn't yet updated the drug codes. A few days later, they updated the drug codes. We submitted the form. And I think that's important because it shows proactive changes happening. The next thing I would say that's a good sign is the DEA has then followed up and asked for further information on our application, right? So they had a rule from the federal government that if you were submitted within the first 60 days, they had a maximum of 60 days to process the application. Fully prepared for them to wait 59 days or whatever it would be to do anything. They didn't. 4 days later, they were asking questions. Just paperwork, nothing big. But now we've also seen that they're starting to do inspections at dispensaries, right? So 2 data points, or maybe 3, proactively added drug codes, asked for follow-up information, starting to do inspections, tells me that they're working on this and that their boss, President Trump, wants this done and they're going to deliver on it, right? So I would say at this point, I believe that they are working towards that 6-month window to process these applications. Another point that tells you they want this to happen is it's called pendency. While they're reviewing your application, once you've submitted it, during the review period, you can operate as if it's approved. Once again, something you don't see, like this is not normal bureaucracy. This is saying, submit the application, get it in within the window. We promise we'll get it done in 6 months. And while you wait for us, you can go ahead and operate as if we've said yes.